Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. The 44th President of the United States, Barack Obama, is back. The former president making a rare public appearance in Connecticut last night, telling the audience that the U.S. constitutional order is in real danger.
We start drifting into something that is not consistent with American democracy. It is consistent with autocracies. We're not there yet completely, but I think that we are dangerously close to normalizing behavior like that.
And while former President Obama spoke, the current president was contemplating joining a new Middle East war against Iran, all while American troops remain deployed here on his orders on U.S. soil in the state of California against the wishes of the state's governor. In fact, they are there, according to the Secretary of Homeland Security, to, quote, liberate the state from its elected leaders. But there aren't even any disturbances on the streets there patrolling. You remember those Waymo cars that got burned? We all saw the images, right? That was a week and a half ago. Yet we still have 700 U.S. Marines and more than 4,000 National Guard soldiers deployed to America's second largest city. That is after Donald Trump ordered another 2,000 guardsmen to L.A. late last night. We'll see how much that's going to cost. That's even though the LAPD told reporters there had not been any arrests related to protests in the city since Saturday night. And it's not just California. Yesterday, the Pentagon also announced that Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth is mobilizing 700 troops to assist federal immigration officials in Florida, Louisiana, and Texas. Now, it seems pretty clear to me at this point that all this is to terrorize American citizens and non-citizens alike, and to transform the structure of American governance and our relationship to our own armed forces, to normalize federal occupiers with guns, some identified, some not, some masked, people that can at any moment just arrest a sitting U.S. senator or a New York City controller, members of Congress, a mayor of Newark. I mean, Trump has always wanted to use American military force against Americans, at least as far back as back in 2020, famously during the George Floyd protests. But at the time, his defense secretary said, more or less, absolutely not. And a big part of the reason that Trump is doing it now, and it is happening now, they're still in California, right, is that he has this almost sort of comically pliable Secretary of Defense in former Fox Weekend host Pete Hegseth, a man who is just obviously palpably in over his head, but will do whatever Trump wants. Today, testifying before the Senate Armed Services Committee, the man who oversees the largest and most lethal organization in the history of the United States answered serious concerns from senators with a deeply disturbing made-for-Fox shtick.
On Sunday night, the president threatened to deploy ICE agents to other cities around the country that he sees as, quote, the core of the Democrat power center, end quote, specifically mentioning Chicago and New York. Secretary Hegseth, if the president wanted to deploy Marines to Chicago and New York City like he did in Los Angeles, would you carry out that order even if the local governors and mayors objected?
Well, thankfully, New York City, unlike California, unlike Gavin Newsom, is willing to step up and address the issue with their local law enforcement.
I will take that as a yes. How about if the president says he wants to send troops to 15 cities? Would you be willing to do that?
Senator, I don't accept your hypothetical because it's
hypothetical.
Not a real one.
That's the question. You're the Secretary of Defense. Would you send troops to 15 cities if the president said do it? Would you do it? 15 cities.
Again, Senator, it's a complete hypothetical lacking any context at all.
It was not hypothetical. I mean, Senator Elizabeth Warren repeated that Donald Trump posted that he wanted to do that, and Hegseth refused to answer whether he would carry out such an order. And then it got worse, because Hegseth was also asked about the situation that his predecessor, Mark Esper, faced in 2020 when Trump wanted the military to crush protesters.
What specifically was he suggesting that the U.S. military should do to these protesters?
He says, can't you just shoot them? just shoot them in the legs or something. And he's suggesting that that's what we should do, that we should bring in the troops and shoot the protesters.
The commander-in-chief was suggesting that the U.S. military shoot protesters.
Yes, in the streets of our nation's capital.
Remember that? Well, today, Pete Hegseth pretended it never happened.
Have you given the order to be able to shoot at unarmed protesters in any way? I'm just asking the question. Don't laugh. Like the whole country. And by the way, my colleagues across the aisle.
What is that based on? What evidence would you have that an order like that has ever been given?
Giving that order to your predecessor, to a Republican Secretary of Defense, who I give a lot of credit to because he didn't accept the order. He had more guts and balls than you because he said, I'm not going to send in the uniformed military to do something that I know in my gut isn't right. He was asked to shoot at their legs. He wrote that in his book. That's not hearsay. So your poo-pooing of this, it just shows you don't understand who we are as a country, who we are. And all of my colleagues across the aisle, especially the ones that served, should want an apolitical military and not want citizens to be scared of their own military. I love the military. I served alongside my whole life, so I'm worried about you tainting it. Have you given the order? Have you given the order that they can use lethal force against honor? I want the answer to be no. Please tell me it's no. Have you given the order?
Senator, I'd be careful what you read in books and believing it, except for the Bible.
Oh, my God.
Now, as dangerous and sort of supercilious and glib and as that all seems, the military is just one part of what Trump is trying to do, right? Another part is this militarized federal police force. Those aren't active duty soldiers, but they're law enforcement officers, the federal government, who are indistinguishable visually from soldiers in their uniforms and their weapons and their operations. And I want you to look at this. I don't know if people have seen this. I don't think it's gotten the attention it should. Here's what those kinds of operations look like when they're being deployed, not in a foreign war, not against some enemy of the United States, being deployed on the ground against us, against Americans, right? Our neighbors and communities. This is an open-air flea market in Los Angeles County, a flea market. The masked men carrying M16s in full camouflage battle rattle are not military service members. They are officers of ICE and the Border Patrol. They look like they're in a mission overseas. And they and their helicopters flying overhead executed a raid on, wait for it, the Santa Fe Springs swap meet on Saturday afternoon. The swap meet. They were there at the swap meet, hours before a Mexican-themed concert was set to begin. Now, the concert was canceled. Patrons and sellers scattered. The community and the market ground to a halt. One vendor said the masked armed agents were asking people where they were from. In America, you're going to a swap meet and someone with an assault rifle and camouflage is asking you where you're from. If you think that has all the hallmarks of an authoritarian, un-American police state, wait till you see how the Border Patrol portrayed that same raid in a hype video posted on their official social media. Again, that was to go to a swap meet. Celebrating a militarized police force raiding and interrogating flea market patrons, asking where they're from, with guns and with masks. This is the kind of America that Donald Trump and Stephen Miller are trying to impose, and what millions and millions who took to the streets this weekend are determined to resist.